how do I politely tell someone they aren't invited to something? I know the title makes me sound like a bad person, but hear me out. Wait, no, you don't. That doesn't make you sound like a bad person.
No.
I think people think too far into things. Like, I do it all the time too, but just because you don't invite someone to something or include everyone you've ever known and called a friend in like every activity, like that doesn't mean you're a bad person. Like, you're allowed to have certain people for certain things. Like, it's okay.
I agree.
And like, if people get offended by that, that's just life. Like, there's definitely been things that I haven't been invited to, but like, you can't just dwell on that, you know? Like, not everything is for you and not everything is for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that fear that makes them sound like a bad person are people pleasers, which like I can relate to, you know what I mean? Like, I do feel bad not inviting everyone to everything, but like, you can't invite everyone to everything. So just, that's life.
Yeah, exactly. And if like you don't want to, like, something I'm really, really trying to work on in my life is not inviting people places if the reason for me inviting them is, well, I would feel bad if I didn't. Like, no, that's not a good reason that's not a good reason to invite someone to something.
100%.
You know?
Yeah.
And I've been trying to think about it from the other side. Like, if I found out that I was invited to something because the person felt guilty and they were like, well, she might be mad, or like, I'm going to look bad if I don't invite her. I don't need to be going to those things. And like, obviously I would never know that. And like, if I'm not invited to something, it's like I could guess that would be the reason. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never going to actually know that. But if I were to find out that I was invited to something because someone felt bad, I think that would feel just as bad as not being invited. You know?
Yeah, and I would just rather not be invited.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it's like easy to sit here and be like, I'd rather just not be invited, because not getting invited to something could be hurtful. But yeah, it would just be so much, well, maybe not so much worse. It would be equally as bad to know that you're a guilt invite.
Yeah, like if I'm not actually, if I'm not actually wanted there, then why would I want to be there myself? You know what I mean? Yeah. No, I agree.
And I also think that, I feel like I've said this before, but like, just because you don't want to invite someone to something, like, doesn't mean they're a bad person or they're annoying, or like, I don't know. Like, I just saw this clip of another podcast where the person was like, sometimes you just realize that people that you were friends with, like, they're just not good people and you're not going to be friends with them. And I was like, yeah, that's definitely true. But there's sometimes that you're friends with people and you just realize that they are a great person and you still don't want to be friends with them. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's even harder, I think. But I have experienced that like a lot in life. Yeah. And I used to feel bad about that, but now I'm like, I don't know. Like, if someone felt that way about me, you don't need to pretend to like me. Like, that's weirder. Like, that's actually more wrong to like pretend, like, keep messaging this person, keep inviting them, like, keep talking to them when you actually don't want to. Like, I have no desire to do that. Like, that is the worst thing to do, I think.
And I think that you have friends that you invite to do certain things and not other things.
Totally.
Like, you love to like go surfing and stuff like that, and skiing and like everything like that. You've gone on ski trips and stuff like that. I think that you have invited me and I'm like, no. But like, for example, I would never be offended if all of you went on a ski trip and I never got an invite, because it's like, that's not something that I would ever want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I want to do that. And even too with your like shore house and stuff like that, like, there's only so much space. So eventually you do have to pick and choose who's coming on things. Like, you would love to have everyone all the time, but you just can't in certain things and situations, and people have to just realize that. You know what I mean? It's just part of life.
I know. Yeah, that's so true. Like, I do feel like I am like a sensitive person, and I do kind of get offended by things, but I'm trying to not. Like, I am trying to see it from both sides, because I'm like, well, I made this decision in this type of situation, and they're just making the same type of decision in that situation. Like, you're just on like the losing side, you know? Or I don't know. I don't think it happens to me that much, because I feel like my friend group my group of friends is more like aligning, but that's because I'm making these like hard decisions. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I am trying to not invite people that I just don't actually want them to be there, and I just feel guilty. Like, I've kind of stopped doing that. So now I feel like those weird situations happen to me less as well. Like, I don't know. I just think that the more like positive decisions you make for yourself, like in your life, even if it's hard at first, like, it's just gonna get easier and easier, because these like weird connections are gonna just like keep being more and more fleeting, and then like they just fizzle out and you don't have to worry about it at all anymore. And you're like, wow, you get to the point where you're like, I don't have anyone in my life like that. And that's such a good feeling, but you do have to go through the hard like realization of like, oh, I actually don't want to be that person's friend, even though they're a great person.
Yeah. And sometimes things just work out. Like, I feel like for you, and like Aaron, for example, like your friends somehow just blend together so
Yeah.
perfectly. Like when we all go down the shore, for example, even, and like you have your friends there, and then Aaron invites a couple of us down as well, which like I consider us friends now too. But we blend together so well, like with Kelee
Yeah.
and like everyone else, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I just feel like everyone gets along so well, and we're not all the same, but like we're able to vibe, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that makes it a lot easier for situations like that, but it's not always like that.
No, I
And
know.
that's okay
And
too.
I do sometimes feel bad. Like, this really doesn't happen to me much anymore at all, actually, but it has happened to me in my life where you invite this person that maybe like isn't like a different friend group, and like people are merging and stuff, and then you feel bad because you're like, wait, are they like fitting in? Are they clicking? Like, do I have to like give that person like more energy? And like I feel bad about that, so I'm like, I don't know. That hasn't happened in so long.
No.
And now I'm glad that like my friends, it is happening where they like merge more easily, and like this
Yeah.
like, feels right, you know?
Yeah, because it is harder.
Yeah.
Like even like I was at a wedding last weekend and I was seeing someone for a little bit. I already said it, but guys, I'm single again. Okay. Like I know we were talking about like, when do we make it official a couple months ago? It's officially single. It was fine. Very amicable breakup, everything. We're good. But for example, like the wedding last weekend, I had a +1. I was in the wedding and everything like that. I was feeling, you know, that certain type of way about who I was seeing. And I was like, do I want to bring them to the wedding with me? And then feel almost like I have to like entertain them
Yeah.
and like check in on them and stuff like that. And I feel like it could be the same thing with a friend across any social situation. And I was like, ultimately like, no. And I was still on the fence about continuing to see this person or not when I had a RSVP, whether or not my guest was coming. And like, again, ultimately I was just like, no, I'm not going to bring someone because I have that fear and I don't want to do that. I just want to enjoy the day. It's my best
Yeah.
friend's wedding. Like I'm in the wedding. She's been my best friend for so many years and I don't want to have to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, it's like, I was like, is that making me a bad person? And I talked to a couple people and they were like, well, no, like it's your best friend's wedding. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you don't want to have to worry about anyone but yourself. Like I don't think that's selfish at all. I think that's being considerate of other people. You know what I mean? That you don't want to do that to them. So it's just a way of life.
Yeah, definitely.
Part of life.
And like it is hard to make that decision, but I do think that like it does get easier, and you don't want to make the decision to be nice, but then have to give up your experience or part of your experience in order to tend to the person that you're like, oh, well, I invited them to be nice. And now
Yeah.
I have to like sacrifice talking to my other friends that I can check in with you and make sure that you're okay, you know? Yeah, I'm like thankful that like, I don't know, I don't think I have anyone else like that currently in my life.
Right.
That I'm like making hard decisions about. I'm like, do I invite them? Like, no, my friends are merging, and I'm like, I'm like so lucky.
Yeah,
about
it
that.
just sucks though, like that, because like even we're kind of doing what the OP is doing in terms of like having to explain yourself sometimes
Yes.
with like, and it's just like, I'm sorry, like I didn't invite you because like I was doing this with these people and like that's something that I wanted to do with them, and like that should really be it. You know what I mean? Like
know.
it does suck. Like you don't want to ever intentionally leave someone out, but there's just some things that you're gonna do with other people, and like that's okay. Like I went and got ice cream with a friend last night, and I didn't invite all my other friends. Me and my one friend just went last night, and then we stopped for a drink on the way home, and we didn't tell anyone else, and like that's
Yeah.
okay too. You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
we never get to spend time together like one-on-one, and like we're able to do that.
I
So, like
know.
there's just certain things that you do without other people, and you shouldn't have to explain why you're doing it.
That is so true. Yeah, like we're sitting here literally giving a reason for like everything we've ever done, but like, yeah, the reason should be that simple. It's just like, that's just what happened that day.
Yeah.
Like it ain't that deep, truly.
And if your friend, I feel like if your friend comes to you about something like that and they're like, I was really upset that you left me out with this and stuff like that, as a friend, I think that you could like relate to that and then just be like, oh, well, why don't we do this instead together? And like, it doesn't have to be that deep.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. No, that's so true. And I do think that I would feel more offended. Like I had those feelings of like, well, why wasn't I invited? Like when I was in friendships where I felt like insecure, or like where I always was like trying to like prove myself, I guess. But now I feel like I've attained friendships where I don't feel that way, like at all. And if I see other friends hanging out, if I feel any type of jealousy, it's not because I'm like, well, why wasn't I invited? It's more like, oh, damn, like I love them so much. Like I wish I could even spend more time with them. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
not like a, why the hell did they not invite me? It's literally just like a, if I could do that every single day with all my friends, I would kind
Right.
of feeling. And it's such a better feeling because you might still feel this like pang of sadness, but it's not a pang of like, how could they? It's more just like, well, I can't wait to do that with them too. Like, I don't know.
You're not feeling resentful.
Exactly.
Yeah, like there's no resent towards them for it. It's just like, wow, like I wish I could have been there because it looks so fun.
Exactly.
And I would love to do that too.
Yeah, like I remember, I don't even know, probably last summer, I saw like you, Kelee, Rebecca, you guys got ice cream together. And I'm like, damn, if I lived in their neighborhood, like I could have gone to that too. But it's not like a fuck them. Like,
right.
Invite me next time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's like just a more like, I don't know. Cause I do want to be real. Like I do have those feelings sometimes, but it's like, it's not, resentful is like the best word for it. It's not resentful. It's almost just like I wish I could do everything all the time with everyone type of feeling, but you just know that's not how life works.
Right.
And you're just excited for like your like chance of doing that, I guess.
No, 100%. Yeah. I think everyone deals with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, even like you and Rebecca and Aaron will do stuff because Rebecca will stop on the way home from like her family's house and stuff like that. And I feel the same way. I'm like, oh my God, like you guys went for dinner at that one place and then we were talking about it. I forget where it was. And I was like, oh my God, that sounded so good and like so fun. But like even just the distance sometimes.
Just like wouldn't make
like
sense.
I get dinner with Rebecca all the time just because we're both in the city and like it's easy.
Yeah.
You know?
And like I do feel like I see, this is the weird thing about the word jealousy, because I think that jealousy has like a really negative connotation, and it sounds like if I said, oh, I'm so jealous of that, it comes off as like, well, I don't want you to have that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't it come off wrong? Like, jealousy to me is more like, well, yeah, they should definitely have that too. But like, I wish I could also have that. You know, like, I wish I could also have more friends that live like in this area so that I had better access to them. Or like, I wish this friend lived here. So, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I definitely have like those pangs of like, damn, like, I wish I could just like go to dinner with this person on a Wednesday and it wasn't this whole ordeal. But like, also, it's just realistic. Like, it's just life, you know? Like, people have friends that live all over the place. Like, you're not necessarily gonna be able to see every single person every single day. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. This is my whole tangent.
No, I know, but I think everyone feels that way.
Yeah.
You're not alone in feeling that. 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel that too. I think everyone would be denying it if they said that they didn't have those thoughts. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I do feel like sometimes I maybe come off as like, you should never have a negative feeling about anything ever because like, it's just not that deep. But like, no, we do have negative feelings, but it's more like, where are they coming from? I guess is the most important thing, you know?
Yeah. And that it's not like you're having those feelings sometimes, but that's not at like the front of your mind all the time.
Right.
Where it's like running and ruining other things or ruining relationships that you have with those people because of those feelings that you're having. You know what I mean?
So true. Like, maybe I have a ping of like, damn, it would be so fun to do that together. But then like, it doesn't like fester in me. And like the next day I don't wake up being like, well, why didn't they invite me? Or like, where was I? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Kelee opens the door, gets like a glass of milk, ice cream. Rebecca and Jimmy went for ice cream 3 weeks ago. You know what I mean? But like I do. And I mean, there are certain times where you get in like a rut, at least I do, where like I will be in a rut mentally and I'm like, you know, it's on my mind. But I think too, as you build really good friendships and relationships with the people, then that's where you could reach out to them and be like, hey, I saw that you went for ice cream with Rebecca the other night. Like, we should totally get together again. Like, seeing your post made me really miss you guys.
Yeah.
And that's what we would do. And that's what we do. You know what I mean? And that's why I feel like once you're confident in your friendships, as you had said, then a lot of the resentment goes away.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I feel comfortable saying this because it's how I feel. And like, I know that we all want to spend time with each other. It's just that we're not all together all the time. Yeah. So like, let's plan something. And then that's when we do usually. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's so healthy, is getting to a place where you're like, you can see your friends are hanging out without you and be like, okay, yes, there's a reason for that. And then also feeling comfortable enough to be like, this post reminded me of like how much I want to do this with you. Cause that's like, even that can be vulnerable and being like, damn, and also you can tell your friends sometimes too, be like, oh my God, I'm so sad that like I haven't gotten dinner with you, or like, I don't know, because it could be weird. Like, if I were to message you and be like, I'm so sad I wasn't there getting ice cream with you, like that might come off a little weird because you're like, okay, well, you don't have to get ice cream with me every single time I get ice cream. But also being vulnerable, or like feeling comfortable enough to be vulnerable and saying like, damn, I wish I could do this stuff more. Like, is there a way that I could be included more? Like, not every time, but just sometimes, you know?
Yeah, no, it does take a vulnerable piece. And I think too, like we talk about social media a lot, obviously on here, but it like exacerbates everything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like what we're posting on social media is like the fun stuff in our lives anyways.
Absolutely.
So like I might go for ice cream with Rebecca like one night and then like not do anything for the other 7 nights. You know what I mean? Of that week. But that's like the one thing that's posted on social media. I'm not showing you me festering in bed, being horizontal every night of the week otherwise. You know what I mean? So, but it does, like, that's like the facade that we all post or like put up online, and it's hard, but it's also like kind of what we all do. And like, I do enjoy posting things like that, like fun things that I am doing. I think everyone does, you know what I mean? But it makes that much harder. And I also think friendship is work, like friendships are work. Having friendships and really are just another relationship in your life, and it takes work. You know what I mean? I'm meeting a friend for dinner tonight because I was like, hey, we haven't like hung out, just you and I, in like a long time. Like, why don't we do something Friday night? Because like he's having a party tomorrow night. So it's like, oh, let's get dinner, like something, you know what I mean? So, but again, it takes you reaching out and you know what I mean? So
no, it's so true too with the highlight reel of social media. And like everyone knows this, like it's not a groundbreaking thing, but I do think people need to be reminded that also we make so many assumptions about like what is happening at all times. And I think most of the time we are wrong. Like these assumptions that we're making, like half the time aren't even true. And I had a friend where like specifically there was this time where everyone went out to Sips in Center City. It's like in the summer, basically like all these bars in Center City have happy hour at the same time. So everyone goes out every Wednesday, basically. This one day happened where all these friends just like came together like at the same time, and nobody like made the plan. It was more like my sister got off work and she went out to this bar, and then she texted me. I go with some of my friends, and then another friend comes, and then somebody else texts my sister and said, hey, are you going out today? Can I come? And then he came, and then we all just ended up going together. And then there was this other friend that was like, well, why didn't you guys invite me? Like I had to invite myself. And I was like, I totally see how that came off that way. But like, it just was not like, they were like very offended about that. And I was like, this is like, you're so wrong. I'm sorry. Like this we all invited ourselves. Like there wasn't like a text that was like, you are all invited to come to happy hour with me. It was just like everyone texted each other and was like, are you going? Okay, I'll go. Like we all invited ourselves. Like, but it just came off so wrong. And also like, if you see your friends got ice cream, sure, maybe they made plans without you, or maybe they just like bumped into each other on the street and they were like, hey, want to stop and get a cone? Like, right.
And that does happen too. Like with Rebecca, like in Fishtown, I've seen her out in Fishtown with like another friend of hers, and then like we are at Frankfurt Hall, and I'm like, oh, they have a table, do you care if we come and sit with you guys too? She's like, oh no, this is my friend that's visiting from California. And then like we got with them for the rest of the night, and then literally the next night same thing happened again. We both ended up in Fishtown. I'm like, wait, I see that you're in Fishtown, we're going here, do you want to meet us? And she's like, oh yeah, we will. We didn't actually plan on being together. The ice cream night, the ice cream was fucking freezer burn as fuck. It was horrible. Horrible. But guess what? Looked great on Rebecca's film camera. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, you know what I mean? I don't know. You just never know. But yeah, even like the Sips thing. Like I think I was there too. That time where we all just ended up at Uptown Beer Garden in the back. And like I think it was it that time? I don't even know.
I don't know.
There was another time that I know that we all just kind of like fizzled in, and we were like, oh, like,
they all blend together because every week it's just like you just happen to see someone, or like you happen to text one person, and then like my sister is very like central when it comes to plans, in my opinion. Like she kind of like says the idea, and she's really good about like picking a plan, and then everyone else will go to her for the confirmation of the plan or something. She is
good at that.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I see it. And I'm lucky in that way because I just get to benefit from her being like, go to this place at this time. And I'm like, all right. Like, but yeah, everyone kind of just will like text her. Like if someone were to text her, they automatically have a group of 10 that they're going out with that night because so many people text her and she's so like good with like confirming plans like that. So it totally could come off wrong when you see like her out with a ton of people too. And then you're like, oh, well, she texted all these people and just didn't invite me. And it's like, no, they all texted her. And she's just good at being like, yeah, this place, this time, let's go.
And Erin's so good at making casual plans. Like she'll send a Snapchat and be like, oh, like I would love to go to like happy hour in Philly today. And then I'll be like, yeah, me too. Like I'm not doing anything after work. And she's like, all right, bet, should we do it? And then she'll text me separately and then we'll like just do it. You know what I mean? Like she's very casual about just being like, oh, like I or like even the Phillies, they were doing like that
the block
opening
party
tailgate
things.
block party thing, and I was like, oh yeah, I would go 100%. And she's like, okay, and then the two of us went. Like, so she's good at casually just like throwing things out there, and then just seeing who like takes the bait, basically. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Which I love, because I'm not like that at all.
I know.
I'll see things and I'm like, I don't want to text people and ask if they want to go, and I just won't go to things.
Yeah.
Aaron will put it out there, which is great.
Yeah. And I feel like we could all try to like be better about that, because I am so bad at that. Like, I mean, I'm not so bad. I feel like I'm on the fence. I'm not as good as her, but I try to. No, I feel like I don't. I feel like she does it all for me. Like, I feel like I'm just like, I'm, what is that phrase? Like riding her coattails, and it makes it seem like I'm good at making plans, but I'm like, no, I'm just like, I just got lucky that my sister is so good at it. And it's funny because they bring up the Phillies thing, because so Jimmy and Aaron went to this, like, it was like the opening day for the Phillies or something.
Oh yeah,
and that was I don't even know.
It was, yeah,
Block
like their opening thing? When they kicked off their new jerseys and stuff like that. Yeah,
their new heinous jerseys
Horrible.
that they wear on Fridays. Okay. Yes. I remember she told me that you went with her, the two of you went, and I was like, damn, like, I'm jealous. I was working that day, so like there's no way I could have gone, but I was like so jealous. I'm like, damn it, like I wish I could have gone. So,
right.
Like,
and did she tell you about it?
Not really.
We literally got out of the car with the dog, walked around for 4 minutes. It was so windy. There was not a single soul there.
Oh.
There were no free samples.
Oh.
It was literally like you could take a picture with like the old championship trophy, which like we've gotten pictures with multiple times. And that was it. Like there was nothing there. Literally nothing. There was probably 100 people and they were in line for the picture with the trophy. And like that was it.
Stop.
We got back in the car and we went to Yards Brewery and had happy hour. That's what we did. And we weren't even going to go there. We were driving and missed the exit, got stuck on 95 for an extra half hour to get to the Fishtown exit. Had to get off, went down Spring Garden, then we were just driving by Yards and we're like, oh, we might as well go for a drink.
Yeah.
So again, it was like, this is a fun thing. We posted that we were down there.
Yeah.
It was heinous. It was like the worst Philly event I've been to. So like, again,
yeah, like you
like,
make assumptions about like what other people are doing and like the fun that you missed out on, when it's like not everything is perfect. Like I remember New Year's Eve, I shared this on the podcast. It was your New Year's Eve plans, because I saw on one of our friends' stories that you were with, she posted this clip and it looked so cool. It was like confetti flying from like the high ceiling, and like I was like, oh my god, our New Year's Eve was such a flop and theirs looked like so much fun. And we were like going back and forth about like, do we go there, and the reason that I didn't go with you was because I just thought the price was too high, in my opinion, for what I wanted to do. So I was like, oh, whatever, I'll just spend like a little less money and do this other thing. And then I regretted it because I was like, ours was such a flop. I'm like, I wish I just spent like a tad bit more money and went with you guys and had like so much fun. And then you came over, you were like, our New Year's was such a flop. And
such a flop. Yeah.
I was like, I thought it was like the best night of your life, like based off this 4-second clip that I saw on our friend's Instagram story that looked like so much fun. And I was like, see, this is what, like, I was sitting around being like, such a flop, I should have done that. And I'm sure you probably had thoughts of like, such a flop, I should have done X, Y, and Z other thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, not that everyone's flopping, but like it's possible that everyone is flopping.
None of this is true. Yeah, literally, that's the name of that book that I was telling you about too. None of this is true. Like that is what it's like a lot of times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, there are great things, obviously. Like not everything's horrible. You know what I mean? Like, but there's just always so much more to the story than what you could see on social media.
That is such.
It's just so important to remember.
And even not on social media, like there's always so much more to the story. And the assumptions that you're making to fill in the blanks are probably not correct.
No.
And so let's not base our feelings off of the things that we're assuming to fill in the gaps it's just a guess, and none of us are good guessers. So like, see, the thing is, like, I feel like sometimes I take a guess and I'm right, like 1 out of 100 times. Then I'm like, well, last time this was what happened, so like this is happening now. And it's like, no, you get lucky when you just know what happened. No, you don't. Like, right. If you're just guessing, like you probably don't know what, and like if you get lucky and you're right one time, like sure.
And trust your intuition, but don't think too deeply.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You could very well be right, but like at the end of the day, is the world burning?
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit, but like not really. You know what I mean? Like the world's not going to end because of this one thing.
Because
and, like,
of the Instagram story that I saw and missed out on.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I really
your friends don't hate you. And
exactly.
like, yeah.
Exactly. And like, of course, like if you are like making assumptions about like things that actually matter, like this person did X, Y, and Z and they're not a good person. Yeah, of course. Like do that. But like, I shouldn't be sitting around spiraling because someone else had more fun than I did on New Year's Eve when in reality they didn't, because I received like the inside scoop and it wasn't what I guessed, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, wow, that was a really
How long
day.
were we even talking about?
I have no idea, but I read one sentence and it was... It was, how do I politely tell someone they aren't invited to something? And we just spoke for an hour, I'm pretty sure.
No, literally, like that's so long.
I mean, we started recording an hour ago. So
Did we really?
I think so. It's almost 6 o'clock. I think we started at like 5.
Yeah, my watch has time to stand. It does that every hour. That's hilarious. Okay.
But I think that was like, we couldn't even write what we just talked about.
No,
you know?
that was relatable shit.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
And if you're like, no, it's not, I don't care, you're lying.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
Okay, now should we actually talk about this?
True.
Wait, it's so funny because some of the people on it are like, yeah, like
I remember like
get the hell away from me.
Kamala Harris was on and like she was like even with her like
yeah,
and it's like this is the vice president.
She's the vice president of the United States. Like yeah, don't touch her.
I don't know why it just feels like we're so close right now.
So close
That's
together.
okay.
Yeah, I could move.
No.
Stay. I know the title makes me sound like a bad person. Oh, that's what set me off. I'm like, no, it's not. You know what? You're allowed to not invite everyone. I have a friend in my circle who has always been a little weird around me. He always tells me how pretty I am and how he would date me if he wasn't in a relationship. That's problematic. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he and his partner have split up, and he had been relentlessly creeping in on some of the girls in our group, including me. I hate that.
Yeah, me too. That's gross.
This all came to a head when he asked me out. I obviously said no, but now I am making plans for my birthday and I really don't want him there. I also don't want him to be the only person in our group who is left out. He is a nice and non-threatening person, and I don't want him to be offended if he sees one of us post something. What do I do? This is so hard because it seems like it's someone that's maybe in your friend group, but it's not like your best friend. Like I almost feel like friend groups are kind of like a line for each person, and it's like you are closer like on the spectrum to some of them than you are to others. But yeah, it could be like a really dickhead move to like not invite your whole friend group. Although, I don't know. It's not like he did nothing wrong. Like he kind of did do something wrong if he's like being creepy around you. Right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
What does creepy mean?
Yeah, I feel like someone needs to say something to him if they haven't already, and just be like, hey, just so you know, like we all consider you like a friend, and when you say these things it makes us a little uncomfortable, and no one's interested in that with you, so like we'd really appreciate it if you would stop doing that, because it's making people not want to be around you. You know, I don't know if you have to add in that last part right off the get, but like definitely I think it's fair to just be like, hey, like we all see you as a friend and appreciate you as a friend, but when you say things like this it makes us feel uncomfortable, so like can you please stop?
Yeah.
Because then maybe if he were to come around, he would stop doing that if that's what's making you not want him around. If everything else is good and you're like, he's really chill, but like, we hate that he keeps saying like, oh, I would totally date you. Like, if you just bring it up to him and he stops doing that, then like maybe it would be okay.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
a great point. No, that's a really good point. I agree with that. And I think that like, let's say your birthday is like this Saturday and you're like, shit, do I invite him or not? If he just asked you out like a couple days ago and now there's only a few days between now and your birthday, like the timeline is quite short. Like we don't have time to like give him our boundaries and see if he implements them. I think that it would be fine to not invite him. This might like come off weird, but even if he's in your friend group, even if he's in your circle, you feel a little bit uncomfortable right now, like today. So you don't have to invite him if you don't want to your own birthday. And if he were to ask you why, you could say something along the lines of what Jimmy just said and say, hey, yeah, I'm sorry if it came off like rude or offensive. You had just asked me out. I said no, so I was feeling a bit awkward. And I also wanted to talk to you about something. but I didn't have time before the party. So here's like my thoughts. And then you say what Jimmy just said or something like that. Because one, like he might not even confront you. Like if it's just like some guy, like is he really going to sit down and be like, why wasn't I invited to your birthday party? But if he does, I would say something like that. Like explain to him like, I didn't have time to say this before, but this is really how I feel, and say exactly what Jimmy just said.
Yeah, just be honest.
Yeah. And then go from there and be like, if you're able, or if you can understand where I'm coming from, you know, I'd love to be friends and have you at the next thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think too, especially with situations like this where it's like not creepy necessarily, but like anything where you're being pursued and it's like icky, you know, like it's okay to say those things, because those things can make you feel uncomfortable, and like no one should have to feel that way. Like I don't think that you should ever have to feel that way. Like if you're not feeling it, then you should be able to say that. And at some point it's like almost like a consensual thing where it's like, stop saying those things to me.
Yeah.
The joke just gets too far. Like you could jokingly be like, oh my God, I would totally date you if like I weren't with this person, or like, oh my God, like we would totally be good together, like we should date. But like at a certain point it's like creepy and like weird. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like that's okay to just be like saying something before it gets to the point where you're starting to resent the person and be like, what the fuck? Just like tell them about it. You know what I mean? Like I don't like when you say those things to me because I'm not interested in you and I won't be, but I like you as a friend, and like if you could still hang out with us as a friend, that's great. But if not, then we're gonna purposely not invite you to things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that like you shouldn't have to explain yourself. Once you make that clear, it's like, I told you and you didn't, you know, respect my boundaries. That's just like putting another boundary for yourself.
Yeah.
But
and I just don't think that you need to invite them if you don't want to. Like if the party is like so soon, I just don't tell them. And like, because the question was, how do I politely tell them they aren't invited? I don't think you need to. People don't need to approach me and tell me, hey, just so you know, you're not invited to this. I'm like, well, I would have known that if, you know, I didn't receive an invitation. So I don't think you tell them anything.
Yeah.
But I think if this person comes to you and asks, you can explain your reasoning. And regardless of if they ask or not, you can confront them and say what Jimmy said about the weird comments.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be like confrontational, you know, like just be honest.
Yeah.
If he reacts in a way that he feels that he's being like attacked or whatever, then maybe there's a little more to it, you know?
Yeah, true.
And that could be telling in and of itself.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And if you say this to the person and they don't respect your boundaries and they keep saying the weird things to you, then I would just, if this were my life, I would stop considering them a friend.
Yeah.
I would be like, yeah, they hang out with some of my friends sometimes, but I don't invite them to my stuff.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. Like really stop inviting them then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Double down. Cool. Slay.
See, aren't you glad you heard our tangent before that? Because that was a quick one.
Yeah. Yeah. See, we can get to the point.